Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. It is Monday, August 4th, and we are launching the week here on the Shannon Joy Show, broadcasting live from Rumble, Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Facebook, Substack, X American News, you name it. The Shannon Joy Show is platformed in so many different places. Also, every podcast platform you can ever imagine. Could not do it without all of you. I see that the live chat here on the SJ Rumble chat is heating up already. Lots of new faces. It's great to see all of you today. You can see the headlines. I mean, like a fire hose in the face every single week. That is the 24-hour news cycle. Lies from both sides of the political aisle, the left versus right, the false dialectic, always choosing a lesser of two evils. I liken it to an election every 2 or 4 years, and we get to choose between Satan and Lucifer. That is the reality of the political process and our electoral process here today, in my opinion, in the United States of America. Both parties engaging in the plunder of this country and abusing their power, making life more and more difficult for average Americans. Whether it's the economy, it's the healthcare system for profit, whether it's the expansion of AI and the technocracy, massive data centers invading small town USA, your job eliminated by the roboticization of everything in this country. Both sides of the political aisle are in on this, and it is just a lot. So here we are, the Shannon Joy Show, every day bringing you news analysis as best as we can, independently from outside of the two-party political spectrum. Not left, not right, just the truth every day. And we could not do it without all of you. So I want to say hello to everyone on the live chat. Then we'll thank our sponsors and we'll launch into the news of the day. You see the headline, Trump over the weekend is now nuke ready. We are deploying nuclear submarines to Russia. We have that. Vance also, in a recent interview, is now promising to investigate the aliens. So they're regurgitating the new fear psyop of, alien invasion. You cannot make these headlines up. And also, the astonishing Epstein rebrand begins. Unbelievable. We have an interview with Glenn Beck, Alan Dershowitz, now flipping on its head everything the right has ever said about Epstein. Does the client list even exist? Alan Dershowitz is now engaging, sadly, with Glenn Beck in the whitewashing of Epstein's character, as we are seeing more and more calls from people on the right to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, pardon Sean Diddy Combs. What is going on the right? We have a write-up from our friends over at Died Suddenly. We're going to be looking into this. Epstein, the entire saga, the entire scandal, much bigger than sex trafficking and the abuse of young girls in the client list. There are financial crimes that Whitney Webb has explored and reported on in her exhaustive work on Epstein, two-part series. We also have Courtney Turner, who is now linking together, and we're going to start with that today on the Shannon Joy Show, an amazing expose by Courtney Turner. You met her last week on a panel right here on the Shannon Joy Show. We're going to have her in on Wednesday for a live 1-hour interview to go over the links between transhumanism, technocracy, and Jeffrey Epstein, the Epstein network, right? So this is a big deal. And the fact that the right is now kind of tossing it over their shoulder, nothing to see here. Maybe Epstein wasn't so bad after all, because Alan Dershowitz is out there claiming that it wasn't really pedophilia, right? That Epstein wasn't a pedophile. he's using a definition of pedophilia, which in my opinion is a distraction. And it is part of that larger picture of, once again, the administration and the conservative Christian right covering up for sexual predators and sex traffickers. Alan Dershowitz himself accused in multiple civil lawsuits of engaging in sexual abuse as well. We're going to get into some of that. So this is a big, tangled, messy story. But this one element of Jeffrey Epstein, the transhumanist and the funder and the organizer of this dark AI, this dark technocracy, it's something that even Naomi Wolf has talked about in a very interesting essay that she wrote about the network, right? Which is not just about trafficking, sex trafficking, honeypots, blackmail, and the likes. It is a much bigger attempt to own the science, as she puts it. And owning the science was the putting together of this network decades ago. It brings in Steve Bannon. It brings in the Weinsteins. It's a crazy story. We're going to just touch on the surface of it today with Courtney Turner's piece, but we're going to have her live in the Joy Virtual Studio on Wednesday. Also, big interview with Sasha Latapova this week and Naomi Wolf. Both are going to be coming in on Thursday. We will be talking about the state of medical freedom and MAHA in the U.S. There is more and more scrutiny pinning RFK Jr., Marty Macri, and others in the so-called medical freedom community, rebranded as MAHA, not making good on their promises and even ushering in even more dystopian, even more corrupt medical practices. The news is not good. And Naomi Wolf, Sasha Latapova are really the tip of the spear in exposing a lot of this. There was a bit of controversy over the weekend. We're going to get into that. And so they will be in the Joy Virtual Studio on Thursday. So big week of hard-hitting interviews working on for tomorrow. I know I promised you guys Aaron Day. This is to go over the economic situation here in the U.S. and the transition, the attempted transition of the entire U.S. economy and the dollar into a new digital stable coin situation, which will obliterate privacy. It is dangerous, controllable, programmable digital currencies, tokens to replace actual money, something that Catherine Austin Fitts has been warning about. We know that Patrick Wood over Technocracy has been warning about this. And Aaron Day is one of the foremost experts in the world on this. Also, next week, Peter Schiff will be back in the Joy Virtual Studio. And the week after, we have Bonk to Carnivore as we look into the financial situation here in the U.S. It is bad. I don't know if you saw the headlines about Vegas, and I'm not a big fan of Vegas, but big tourist attraction, always bustling. Apparently, business is down. Tourism in the United States of America is plummeting. Manufacturing, the jobs report, unbelievable. Last week on Friday, the revisions came in from the Trump administration. They lied about jobs in July. They lied about jobs in May, and they're probably lying about jobs in June as well, as these new revisions are coming out, like 60 to 70% fewer jobs than they announced. This entire golden age illusion is falling apart right before our eyes, and every American really gets it, right? They're telling you that the economy is better than ever, that you have more spending power than ever, that we are entering this new amazing golden era of American dominance. And a lot of that is centered around AI and the digitalization and robotization of everything in this country. Again, peeling away jobs, but there's a lot of hype there. Some are calling that a bubble. And regular Americans, I don't know about those of you on the live chat right now. We're going to get to the live chat in just a minute. But I can tell you, as a mom of three, solidly middle class, living here in New York State, as I talk to people every single day all across the country, it is getting more and more difficult for Americans to make ends meet. Our kids will not even be able to afford homes. The housing market is just unbelievably horrifying. No one can get into a home. It used to be if you had, decent credit and $100,000 or even less, you could purchase a home. You could get into a small, modest home and begin to invest in yourself, right? And build that equity. And it is becoming more and more difficult as home prices and values are skyrocketing. It's manipulated, it seems. But even owning a home looks as if it's going to be out of reach for more and more Americans. Consumer debt skyrocketing, inflation, you guys know it's all over, even though they're telling you that there's no inflation. Like everything is doubled, everything. You know it, right? You're experiencing it every day. So nothing's going on in Vegas. The tourism is plummeting. A lot of this has to do with not only the debt and deficit spending, the BBB, which changes nothing in terms of profligate debt spending in this country, but also the heaping on of one tariff after another. We're just beginning to see the impacts of those tariffs. So it's just the most insane thing. Here you have Trump and his administration pushing out propaganda, the conservative right just regurgitating that propaganda, best economy ever, America is back, golden era. But then there's a reality on the ground that is completely opposite. But if anyone mentions that, well, you have Trump derangement syndrome, you're a libtard leftist, which is what I get called all the time, which is so far from the truth, right? But every time you even try to identify this, it is, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, especially from conservative right, who are likely, many of them, being paid as propagandists for this administration in some type of way. But it is just all so corrupt. By the way, Palantir up 65% in the past 8 months. Big tech, they are raking in government largesse. It's breathtaking, to be honest. And Trump is right at the center of all of that. Lots of propaganda out there and just outright lies. And this is laid out in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. My top headlines, as you can see, for August 4th. We have a clip from Catherine Austin Fitts that maybe if we have time, Annie, thank you so much for producing the Shannon Joy Show. By the way, the beautiful, amazing, talented Ina's Annie Cyrus. If you could rustle up that clip from Catherine Austin Fitts, a very good interview, Trump the Trojan Horse. She is really reiterating what my thesis has been really for the past the entirety of this presidency. In fact, I said he was a Trojan horse before he had even won the presidency in the summer of 2024, when it was very clear Trump had been purchased by big tech, both Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. Even though they're in a tiff right now, it seems. I believe that they're all working together, right hand, left hand type of situation. But we saw, the technocracy move in very quickly and essentially purchase the presidency. And so Catherine Austin Fitts reiterated that in a really great clip that we can look at a little bit later in the program. But that is listed in the top headlines for August 4th, 2025. Huge thank you to our sponsors. I want to shout out, first and foremost, Colonial Metals Group. Shannon Joy Show could not come to you every day without our friends over at Colonial. Again, great report. I featured this last week. Jesse Colombo, the bubble. I love his reports. And he is now predicting, we've seen gold, physical gold and silver move in a sideways position, right? So there have been these attempts to really pump crypto, stablecoin, Bitcoin, Tether, all of those new digital mechanisms. The American people aren't really buying, and the big guys are not buying as well. We are still looking at high demand for precious metals, both silver and gold. This is also evidenced by what we're seeing at Costco and Walmart. They are now offering to their customers physical gold and silver bars, and they are moving so fast they can't keep them off the shelves. Both Walmart and Costco having limits for purchase, right? So you can only purchase so many. because so many Americans are instinctively understanding that something is going very, very wrong. So gold and silver has been in kind of a sideways up, down. It hasn't really grown a lot, but this is part of a larger trend that Jesse Colombo has been watching over the past couple of years. And he is predicting that gold could rise another $900 in just the next couple of months. And silver is not far behind. There's a lot of chatter about silver as well being suppressed artificially by the big gold and silver companies for many, many years, but it continues to break out. It continues to maintain the value that it has right now. The point of all of this being that if you are invested 100% in the stock market, if you're concerned about your 401k, if you're concerned that your IRA or 401k could lose its value or even be manipulated by new legislation that is opening the door up to private equity and also cryptocurrencies within your 401k or IRA, now is the time to have a conversation about this with our friends over at Colonial Metals Group. It is so easy to move a portion of your 401k or IRA into gold and silver backed instruments. It is a hedge against this chaos and the corruption, and it can back up your savings. You have been working too hard for too long to save. You've done everything that is right. And the fact that these corrupt and nasty politicians, left and right, are going to come in and screw things up so badly that regular Americans might not have, access or their investments might not be able to cover their expenses into retirement is just atrocious. And this is why so many Americans are moving into gold and silver backed investments. Colonial Metals Group is the company I trust. Go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. It does not hurt to have a conversation. They are amazing. They know this audience and they will walk you through this process. It's super easy. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Okay. So I see here on the live chat, this is so cool. And I love this. The Big Mig has rated this stream on Rumble, which is so cool. So apparently Annie filled me in right before the show started. Thank you so much, the Big Mig. So appreciate you. When someone raids a stream on Rumble, it means they come in and they end their show and then they raid another show and dump their entire audience into that show, which is a great way for us to expand our footprint and Rumble. So I really appreciate that. And I see a lot of new faces voices or typers on the live chat. So thank you so much. The Big Mig, you are so cool. And with a comment, what's up, fam? Well, we're going to talk about all of it today, Big Mig. Sherry Gilbert 09 is with us as well. We have Lousy Larry. Oh my gosh, you guys are great. Farmer Jane 1966 here representing the Big Mig. Buskman says, hey, Mig, keep that wielding of the wielding. You guys are great. So great to see you. Who else do we have? Lousy Larry. I like that name. Zen Woman. Great to see you. Nostradamus, of course, is with us today on the live chat. CJP Rumble. Zen Woman. Shay is wearing the trans purple pink mix. Sad that I thought of that first. I know. I love this dress is like 11 years old. It's one of my all-time favorite dresses. And I think it was around before the whole like rainbow trans purple pink appropriation of this color. So Zen, I'm going to continue to wear the dress. Oh my gosh, US Abby Girl, first time here. Great to see you. US Abby Girl, glad you're here, of course. Rothen Walker. Oh, finally getting to the aliens. They keep trotting this out, the alien psyop, and I'm seeing it in so many different platforms on the right. So much of this seems performative. I mean, the nuke talk, first and foremost. And this is from, you wake up Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and, Trump is on air saying, well, we are ready. We're nuke ready. And we're deploying nuclear submarines to Russia. This is from The Hill. President Trump confirmed on Sunday that nuclear submarines are in the region 2 days after saying the U.S. was positioning 2 nuclear subs close to Russia, right? He said, I've already put out a statement. They are in the region, where they have to be, he told reporters. He announced Friday that he was positioning these in appropriate regions near Russia following highly provocative statements from former Russian President Medvedev. And this is like, you know, they're doing Russia, Russia, Russia again. And apparently we're opening all of it. It just all seems so performative to me. I mean, this is very concerning. I don't think any American would like to see nuclear war break out in anytime soon. Like, that would be bad. But, you know, these headlines, sometimes it does seem performative to me. And I just don't know what to trust these days. I don't know. It seems to me that this is part of the attempt with this 24-hour news cycle to just get stranger and stranger, and these provocative headlines that elicit anxiety and fear, keeps everyone unsettled and agitated, divided, confused, befuddled about everything. I mean, from the aliens to the nukes to Epstein. Apparently, we all like Epstein now. And Dershowitz is a great guy. He was on with Glenn Beck, attempting, it seems to me, to whitewash the character of Jeffrey Epstein while also pushing out the narrative that we should somehow pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, which is outrageous. And we're going to talk about very good report from Died Suddenly on that. But it just seems like so many of these headlines are designed to keep us unstable, agitated, confused, fearful, and you know, not tuned into what is actually happening. And a lot of bad things are happening. This is another story we're going to look at today. Real life drama, Tucker County residents versus the AI data center behemoth. Get ready, guys, as part of Project Stargate, funded by your tax dollars. Again, we've talked about this. Thousands of massive data centers. I mean, data centers spanning, I mean, the size of Manhattan. And this was reported, you know, from Mark Zuckerberg, who is building his own versions of these massive data centers to process data, information, surveillance on the American people by this government. This is going to be plopped right in your backyard. And people of Tucker County in the state of West Virginia near Davis are now in the battle of their lives against a Virginia-based company called Fundamental Data, which was applying. They were applying for a permit from the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection for what they called the Ridgeline facility. And their heavily redacted application showed plans to build an off-the-grid natural gas power plant between Thomas and Davis. The power plant was designed to power an enormous data center just a mile out from Tucker County's most populous and tourist-attracting areas. So earlier this month, reps from Fundamental Data, they didn't respond to initial requests for comment on the article, and this was written in, I pulled this from Technocracy. Patrick Wood posted it, and it's linked again in the show notes today. But this facility could be among, and this is from the Wall Street Journal, the largest data center campuses in the world, spanning, are you ready for this? 10,000 acres across Tucker and Grant counties if fully realized. And so now Forrester, this is Nikki Forrester, she lives in the area. They have started a group to oppose this, but she says that she and her neighbors are now in the middle of what feels like a fight for their lives as they attempt to just learn more about the vague development plans and fight against big data. And this is, again, a pristine, I mean, they talk about the beautiful area that they want to bring these data centers in. Very frightening. And buckle up, Buttercup, because this is coming to a town near you, potentially your town. Again, this is one of thousands, again, Manhattan-sized data centers. And like you can see here, they're building nuclear power plants and natural gas plants just to power the data centers. It's insane. No one is talking about this. Again, we have Courtney Turner coming into the Joy Virtual Studio Wednesday. another expert in technocracy as we kind of plow through this. Very few people reporting on this. Great reporting, though, from Derek Rose. If you want some sources on technocracy, you're not going to get it from the right-wing news media. You're not going to get a chalkboard from Glenn Beck. Glenn is very, very busy welcoming Alan Dershowitz into his platform to muddy the waters about Jeffrey Epstein. So no time for a blackboard on the things that will actually matter to real Americans, the expansion of AI and these data centers. But, you know, that's par for the course these days for right-wing news media. We have agreement here on the live chat about Trump, the Trojan horse, and we'll grab that. We'll grab that clip from Catherine Austin Fitz in just a minute. Mark Garth Hilton says, rating is awesome. Welcome. Done Fed Up is with us again. Be My Valentine with us as well. Anything that you guys want me to talk about today on the show, again, it's just you and me, mano a mano, this Monday, no guests. I want to hear from you. Would love to get commentary from some of the news of the day, some of the stories that we are covering, any questions that you have. Buskman is with us as well. It's welding as MIG welding. Okay, I see you, Buskman. Mark the Regan has a question. Will they be tactical or strategic nuclear weapons? I don't know. Again, are you guys freaking out about this nuke thing? Part of me feels like it's performative. Part of me feels like, I mean, even the Russia-Ukraine thing, even what is going on, and I hate to say this, but in Gaza, in the Middle East, it seems dialectical to me, like one of these big stories that everyone's pushing out and you have to have an opinion on it, but you really can't get great information on what's really going on. And so from my perspective, sometimes the play is to not play at all. Like when the information isn't good, then it's, you know, it's just a story that I'm not going to really cover. And I do get the sense that the nuke headline is meant to destabilize and to frighten, to divide, to terrify, and to keep us unsteady. But I could be wrong. I'm not in their secret meetings, right? So we're not privy to their plans and what the larger agendas are. But the fact that they're trotting out the aliens now, and I don't know, it just all seems a little interesting. I think also, even within the Epstein network and discussion of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and that network, right? I think that the trafficking and the abuse of women, thousands, according to Pam Bondi in her memo. So she acknowledged that there were thousands of young girls that were abused as part of the network, the Epstein network. I think even that analysis focusing exclusively on that is shallow analysis, especially when you consider, as I mentioned, Whitney Webb's reporting on the massive financial crimes committed by Epstein, and Catherine Austin Fitz will back that up as well with some of her reporting and analysis. And then what we're going to learn from Courtney Turner about Jeffrey Epstein and his links, extensive links to transhumanism and technocracy. I have a fantastic thread that I'm going to go through with you a little bit later today in the program. LT Oracle of Truth, Shannon, they want World War III. I don't disagree, but I'm not sure what World War III is going to look like. I kind of think we're already in it. I kind of think we're halfway through it. I mean, if you consider COVID and the lockdowns, the hospital kill protocols, and the rollout of the deadly bioweapon via Operation Warp Speed, which was put in place by Trump, you realize the millions of Americans who were maimed or even killed because of the government protocols, a democide that happened in our country in 2021 and 22, those are casualties, right? I mean, those are our weapons being deployed. We know that COVID lockdowns were a military operation. We know that the military was in control of the entire operation. We know that the federal government, government agents and agencies, and contractors and private corporations contracted with the government during COVID, the lockdowns, and the rollout of Operation Warp Speed were exempted because of emergency declaration. So they have the right, and that emergency declaration is still in place today. So we are still under a military lockdown technically in this country. They are still in full control. We still don't have the full story on COVID or a reckoning at all. And to me, that feels a little like war when you think that it was global in nature. And what happened in the US happened in Canada, it happened in the UK, it happened in Germany and in Poland and across the globe in the exact same way with the exact same propaganda and messaging. You know, you get the sense that something is happening, and neither of the political parties will talk about it in that context, which is, you know, precisely my reasoning for believing that they're working together. So World War III, I don't think is going to be, I mean, it might be nuclear. That would be very scary. It wouldn't be good, but I have a feeling they have plenty of ways to deploy weapons against innocent civilians, not just in the US, but across the globe. And I think it's the worst in US, right? If from the air, I mean, the information that we are learning now about solar radiation management, geoengineering, cloud seeding, and the dropping of chemicals from the skies into civilian populations. I mean, we know this is in existence now, and they're looking to expand it. So they can get us with the soil, the air, the food, the vaccines. We're trying to get fluoride out of the water. That was one of the promises that was made by this administration, but it's being challenged by Trump's own Department of Justice. So any of the headlines that you saw from Bobby Kennedy or HHS regarding, you know, getting rid of fluoride in the water, well, that's all stalled right now because of Trump's own Department of Justice throwing a wrench into that. We have the approval of multiple new mRNA technologies and shots. And we also had the approval of a new COVID-19 shot that moved through the FDA when Bobby Kennedy Jr. was on vacation, right? So, more bioweapons deployed, no transparency. Pharmaceutical companies still enjoy robust liability protection. And in the BBB, the Big Beautiful Bill, we now have that type of liability protection now expanded for chemical companies. So that's one of those nasty provisions in the BBB. So like, what's going on here? They might want us to think, I mean, again, that would be a great diversionary tactic, wouldn't it? To keep us all focused on Gaza and Israel, all focused on Ukraine and Russiagate, the laptops, war with Russia, war with whoever, right? And we're all focusing on this. That's where all the headlines are driven. And meanwhile, they are building the infrastructure of the technocracy, the most evil ideology I have ever studied in my entire life. And that's happening super fast. So, a lot to unpack here. Who else do we have here? I think, we got Clones. I see you on the live chat. Also, great interview. So thankful to Seth Holhouse. He is Man in America, and he just pushed out just a great interview. He had me on. We went for about an hour. He asked me all kinds of questions about everything we've been doing for the past 12 years here on the Shannon Joy Show, and it was an amazing interview. I felt we talked about very, very serious things, but I felt so optimistic after that. So that was pretty great. All right, so we do have to go to break. This intro has been a long intro. And so we're going to take a quick break. Thank you to our sponsors again, Colonial Metals Group. You're going to hear from the satellite phone store, sat123.com/joy. Native Path family of products. We are loving the collagen right now. We're going to talk about collagen today on the Shannon Joy Show. And of course, our good friend, Dom Polano over at PCM and Associates. Get your comments ready. Get your questions ready. If you're new, say hello. I'd love to say hi to you. And put those comments and questions in all caps if you want me to see them. That way I can read them. But when we come back, we're going to get to some of these stories. And I think we're going to start with Courtney Turner's piece linking, because this is new. You're not going to hear this anywhere else or see this anywhere else. But the links between Jeffrey Epstein and the technocrats and technocracy are astounding. And she did an exhaustive piece. She's going to be with us on Wednesday. We're going to kick off the news of the day with that when we come back. Let's hit the commercial break, and you keep it tuned right here. Share it with everyone you know. By the way, if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up and follow the Shannon Joy Show today. That helps us grow and helps us with those algorithms. Of course, we always love your comments in the live chat. So let's hit the brakes. We'll be back in a moment to continue the show right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Donald Trump preparing an executive order to open up your 401k up to $12 trillion in private funds, Americans' retirement investments, to shady private equity and cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. The scariest part about this is that you might not even know that your funds now have been opened up to investments in some of these type of operations, that your investments could be converted. Even if you know about this, there might not even be a way for you to get out of it. This is why the self-directed IRA backed by gold and silver is so incredibly important. The only company that I trust is Colonial Metals Group. Not only do I purchase my physical gold and silver from Colonial Metals Group, but I also have an individual self-directed IRA that is backed by physical gold and silver. This is not paper gold and silver. It's the real thing. And the process was so surprisingly easy, so quick. You can do it in less than a couple days. I love the folks over at Colonial Metals Group. They don't do pressure selling. They don't try to manipulate you. They don't use fear selling. They just meet you right where you are, lay out all of the options. If you have a 401k, if you have an IRA, because they're opening up to IRA as well with this executive order, if you have saved your entire life and you are concerned that that is going to be erased by some of these new executive orders and legislation, now is the time, guys. Do not wait. Have that conversation. There's an amazing rep standing by. Tish was my girl. She's amazing. Just go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Make sure you tell them that Shannon Joy sent you, and you can get on the path to backing up your retirement with our friends at Colonial Metals Group. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. I see you on the live chat. Mark the Regan, all caps. I'm so worried about nuclear weapons. I want to give up all my freedoms so the government will protect me, right? So they love these fear strategies. They love to keep us unstable, because if they can frighten us enough, they can justify any expansion of surveillance, control, crushing our God-given natural rights, obliterating our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. The only way they can get away with doing that is by keeping us in a perpetual state of constant fear. And that is why I wonder if these headlines about nuclear war with Russia are valid and even true. It seems, as I mentioned earlier, to me to be performative, a larger agenda item. And that agenda item, I agree with you, CJP Rumble. It's the technocracy. It's these data centers. Great comment from CJ. Project Stargate, Abilene, Texas, 8 massive data centers for 1,200 megawatts, the equivalent to the daily power usage of 1 million households. And that's just in Texas, right? Bolingbrook Technology Campus, a 900-acre, $5.8 billion AI data center complex, 5.4 million square foot campus with 9 data centers, 6 at 100 megawatts, 3 at 200 megawatts. Insane. The planning board and zoning board was able to vote against rezoning from residential to commercial, writes CJ, and it will go before the county commission in August. These are real life dramas. And this is, I think, technocracy, transhumanism, biomedical surveillance and technologies, cryptocurrencies, digital currencies, and digital IDs. These are going to have the most impact on your daily life. And it's going to move pretty quickly. And that's why you're seeing all these data centers. So this is from Patrick Wood, and it's linked in the show notes. But he wrote about the data centers in Tucker County in West Virginia. And this is what he wrote. First came the sleepy community at harmony with nature. Then came the secrecy surrounding the behemoth data center to build a 10,000-acre self powered AI facility. Then came the legislation to exempt it from local regulation. We saw that in the BBB, right? The federal government wants to end the power of the zoning board, the power of local communities to decide what happens within their own communities and in their own backyards. Then came the cries of anguish from local residents as they realized that their total way of life had been stolen from them. This is playing out all over America, writes Patrick Wood. Whenever the AI data center crowd shows up, they trample on land use laws and also the citizens. And this is the big story. And this is a story that also involves Epstein and his relationship with technocracy. So we are now seeing, this is a very interesting development, right, in the entire saga of Jeffrey Epstein. We are now in the period of right-wing news media and right-wing commentators and so-called Christian conservatives, right, like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. By the way, Tucker Carlson had Candace Owens on his show so that she could talk about Macron and why she thinks that she is a he, which is, I think, another diversionary tactic. But it's interesting that both Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens whitewashed the character of Andrew Tate, who is a real life living under indictment in multiple countries with dozens and dozens of victims, human trafficker, sex trafficker, and accused child rapist, right? He's been on both of their shows. They don't have time to talk about that, right? They need to talk about whether or not Macron is really a woman. We're talking about the wife of Macron. And it's a ridiculous, I don't even cover it because it's so ridiculous. But you're seeing then Glenn Beck is hosting Alan Dershowitz, and we're seeing the soft pedaling. Like now we like Ghislaine Maxwell because she's going to testify. She'll say exactly what she's told to say because she's involved in this, and she'll say anything to get out of prison and to get a pardon. And so now we have Glenn Beck hosting Dershowitz, and Dershowitz saying that the list didn't even exist, that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't a pedophile, among other things. Now, Dershowitz is linked to all of this. I mean, Dershowitz has been out there for years on Sean Hannity's show. I mean, he's been populating conservative media, really distracting or dissembling about, this issue, the Epstein issue. But, in July 15th, this is from Miami Herald, 2019. As you know, Alan Dershowitz, over a decade ago, he was a Harvard law professor, and he represented Jeffrey Epstein when he was fighting similar charges, trafficking charges in Palm Beach County, Florida. That was along with Ken Starr. Remember the dream team of attorneys flown down to Florida to save Jeffrey Epstein and negotiate the sweetheart deal that was put together by Alexander Acosta, who was rewarded by Trump in his first administration with a cabinet level position after he was, famously the guy who let Jeffrey Epstein go because he, quote, and this is according to Acosta, said that he was told that Epstein was intelligence, meaning U.S. intelligence, CIA, Israeli intelligence, Mossad, we don't know. Oh, by the way, Jeffrey Epstein is also saying that Alan Dershowitz is also saying that Jeffrey Epstein is definitely not a Mossad agent or was definitely not Israeli intelligence. So he is now, I guess, the definitive voice on what Epstein was or was not, and he's being platformed by Glenn Beck and conservative media, the same people who were freaking out over Jeffrey Epstein for years and years and years. All right. Well, Dershowitz, as I mentioned, this is according to Miami Herald, helped to negotiate that sweetheart plea deal and allowed him a work release provision through his 13 months in Palm Beach County Jail. So Epstein accusers, Sarah Ransom, Maria Farmer, and Virginia Giuffre, who is now deceased. She committed suicide just a couple weeks ago. So Virginia Giuffre is dead. Alan Dershowitz is out there now, running the circuit and pushing out this soft pedaling or this whitewashing of Jeffrey Epstein's character, right? But they leveled allegations against Dershowitz in court filings and defamation lawsuits. Dershowitz denies, of course, these accusations. And in subsequent interviews, he defended himself. But Farmer's affidavit is one of 15 exhibits. Again, this is from Miami Herald, attached to a defamation complaint filed in federal court in the Southern District of New York by Virginia Roberts Giuffre, one of Epstein's victims, against Alan Dershowitz, one of Epstein's most vocal and powerful attorneys, right? And now, again, he's out there running cover. Giuffre claims in the lawsuit that she has in past filings that she claims in her lawsuit that Dershowitz, 80, knew about and participated in a sex trafficking operation involving underage girls and run by Epstein and Maxwell. And this is pretty well known. This is nothing blockbuster here. Like, there have long been accusations against Dershowitz himself, which obviously he's going to deny, but against Dershowitz himself, accusing him of engaging in these activities, knowing about the activities. And in this case, she claims that she was forced to have sex with Dershowitz and other prominent wealthy men when she was underage. So that's just the record, okay? Again, he denies this, but is he really the guy that we think Glenn Beck should be trotting out to give the definitive truth on who Jeffrey Epstein was or wasn't, whether or not he was a pedophile, and whether or not a client list existed, and whether or not he was in intelligence or part of Israeli intelligence or U.S. intelligence? I mean, this is why I say so many in right-wing media are propagandists. I don't know, like, why would they? It's not journalism. I don't know what it is, but it is not independent, objective journalism or even reporting. Like, these guys are so in the bag for Trump, Trump Inc., MAGA, MAGA Inc., technocracy, the network. I don't know what drives them. I just know that Alan Dershowitz would never be someone I would have on my program to talk about the Epsteins, seeing that he has been implicated legally in multiple court documents and by 3 or more women being involved, right? So that just takes him off the list. You can believe it or not believe it, but using him as a source of credibility to me is insane. And it indicates to me that something bigger is going on here. When you realize how Epstein is tied into so much going back decades, and not just with the trafficking, but also with financial crimes. And in the case of the reporting of Courtney Turner, the technocracy and transhumanism, it's astounding, absolutely astounding, the people involved here. So Courtney Turner, as you met her last week on the Shannon Joy Show. She's going to be joining us on Monday. And she has a piece. Do I have it right here? Here it is. That she just dropped that we're going to be going over in detail. It's a long piece, but it is an exhaustive, deep dive on Epstein and what she calls the Epstein transhumanist conspiracy. How Game B, conscious evolution, hides a eugenics-fueled technocratic takeover. That is the title of her piece. The subheading, exposing the shadowy elite network of DNA seeding, spiritual culling, and control techniques from Epstein's island to AI godhood. So this is just the introduction. And then I have a condensed thread that I linked you all to in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show from Courtney that we'll go through as well. And then we'll get your comments. I want to hear what you guys think about all of this. She writes, imagine unlocking the secrets of human source code, they think, to rewrite our destiny, transcending scarcity, competition, and even death itself. It sounds like a sci-fi utopia, right? But what if this vision is a Trojan horse for elite control funded by Jeffrey Epstein and amplified by Silicon Valley titans? Dive into the shadowy origins of Game B. This is a movement promising collective flourishing, but potentially delivering a dystopian nightmare of genetic engineering, AI overlords, and spiritual eugenics. If you've ever wondered how the intellectual dark web, the Santa Fe Institute, and Epstein's billions connect to a plan for a conscious evolution. Keep reading. This expose will blow your mind. And it has blown my mind. So when Courtney talks about game B, it's basically it is a group of intellectuals. It is an underpinning philosophy that wants to move society into a technocratic new world order, a new global order that is run by technocrats, elites making decisions for the herds, all of the little people, you and me, right? Massive surveillance, all the things. And the game B crowd, the way that they implement something big like this, like the technocracy, so it's a whole new ideology. It sits over communism, Marxism, socialism, fascism, collectivism, democracy, any of the ideological or the political ideologies pale in comparison to what this technocracy is. And so they seek to kind of overwhelm and sit over top of all nations, have all control, and they think that they have the technological ability to do it. That's why you're seeing the data centers, and that's why we're seeing all of the hype about AI and all of the frenetic discourse and the rushed implementation of legislation, executive orders, and emergency declarations over the past 6 months. Like, they're moving this really, really fast. And the U.S. is the hub of this. This is where they want to build it here in the U.S., the ultimate technocratic regime, and then export this to the rest of the countries. And that was laid out in Trump's 3 recent executive orders. We won't go into them. In order to get this in place, they need to, number one, keep us divided, right? But also use left hand, right hand techniques, right? So they need to take technocracy and appeal to kind of the crunchier, left-wing, Mother Earth, Gaia, a softer kind of ideology. They somehow have to infiltrate that group and make a technocracy palatable to them, right? And so that's what game B is. It is the effort to go in and infiltrate these organizations on the left and acclimate them to technocracy. Now, there's also dark enlightenment. That is the right hand of this. So Elon Musk would probably be part of the dark enlightenment crowd, and Peter Thiel part of the game B. But the dark enlightenment crowd is more of an authoritarian, male-dominated, like conservative. This is what conservatives and libertarians who want, like, what they'll call free markets and every man for himself. It's kind of a rougher version. But it is, that would be the way that they've infiltrated the right. And you see it all the time. I mean, all the talking points on the right are all about efficiency. It's about getting rid of government, smaller government, and moving into the 21st century. It's about corporations and calling it free market when it really isn't. It is, corporate. It's corporatism. It's crony capitalism. But so they use different talking points and different versions of what their technocracy ideology to infiltrate both groups. And they do that. I mean, you'll see this happen in a variety of different ways and using different issues over the past 20 years. This is kind of the underpinnings of one of my core premises on the Shannon Joy Show, is that a lot of this is left-right hands, like, the Hegelian dialectic, and playing us against each other and always asking us to make false choices and wrapping up totalitarianism or control or the expansion of government into different packages, one that appeals to the left and another that appeals to the right, but it's still the same package. They just use different words and terms and propaganda. And so, that's kind of that would be an umbrella position that we carry here on the Shannon Joy Show every single day. I mean, that is the paradigm through which I look at politics every day when we're doing analysis. And it doesn't matter what the topic is, what the agenda item is. I'm always looking for what's the left version of this and the right version of this. So that is kind of a long explanation of game B. But what's going to blow your mind, okay, are the people involved in game B. The people going back decades. People like the Weinsteins, Eric and Brett. People like Steve Bannon, that will blow your mind. And all of the ties between Jeffrey Epstein and his network, how he seeded and funded the new science or the emerging science. This is something, interestingly enough, Courtney Turner's piece is amazing, but I first began to actually understand this about a week and a half ago. Naomi Wolf, in trying to somehow understand why Donald Trump would even consider dropping the Jeffrey Epstein thing, that, you know, that issue, that agenda, releasing the files. You know, she wrote an essay and read it. It's called The Network. And she began to explain how Jeffrey Epstein was embedded in this type of science and in bringing scientific people together, connecting them, funding them, and therefore being able to control science and the flow of what was science from the left, in her perspective, because she was part of the left at the time. And she would say that she was part of that. Her story is unbelievable. We'll ask her about it, maybe in another interview at some point. But I would highly recommend that you read her piece or listen to the reading of that piece. It is The Network, and her involvement in it just blew my mind. So what Courtney Turner, they don't even know each other, I don't believe, but what Courtney Turner reveals here in this piece aligns absolutely perfectly with what Naomi Wolf wrote about as well. So when we come back, we are going to get into this, and we'll go through these links and the timeline and the players, and hopefully we can have a better understanding. Everything is really about the technocracy. That, I think, is going to be the dominant theme and the dominant issue that we're going to be grappling with as American citizens in the next 18 to 24 months. So understanding it is very important. Bill Benz. Shannon, you had the Epstein plane manifests citing Dershowitz back in 2015 and 16, along with Clinton, Trump, and Barr. You should play the old audio if you can find it somehow. It was on your old website. Bill, oh my gosh, what a great memory you have. I can't even remember what I did last week, let alone what I was talking about 12 years ago. But I do remember this. Those were the documents that we went through over 10 years ago when I did my initial and only necessary deep dive on Trump after he came down the golden escalator. And I went through it with the audience, and those documents were one of my first exposures to the left hand, right hand. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is like the biggest scandal in the world. But the biggest surprise of this scandal is that it engulfs both political parties. But neither the left nor the right will ever indict their own party. They will only indict the opposite party, right? When the biggest story was that it was Clinton and Trump, right? And Bill Barr and Dershowitz. So I remember that, Bill, and I wish that I had the audio. If someone has access to that or a way to find it, that would be very cool. But as you guys know, that's just a really great example. You guys know, those of you who have been with me for 12 years, if I'm anything, it is consistent. I don't change. Everyone else changes, but we don't change here. DG8, Shannon, Trump is the psyop. He is there to keep people asleep and to do nothing but sit back and trust the plan as the electronic surveillance state is built and count on Trump to save them. I agree with you. I do not disagree. And we're definitely going to, I think we'll lead the next segment. We're going to go to break. We'll lead the next segment with Catherine Austin Fitts and her statement about Trump, the Trojan horse. I'm not sure if she uses the term Trojan horse. I mean, I've been pushing that out there because I think it's the best way to understand Trump as the vehicle. Most commentators on the right, people like Steve Bannon, would believe that Trump is the vehicle to fight the technocratic state or to fight the globalists. I believe that Donald Trump is the vehicle to usher them into the United States of America under the guise of making America great again, while the right is asleep. That's my position. And so I agree with you, DG8. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're gonna dive into this piece and we're gonna look at these. I mean, all of these connections are pretty astonishing. And so we'll do that, but we'll lead right in with Catherine Austin Fitz and her commentary. And then we'll continue with this analysis. Any questions, any comments, throw them up there in the live chat, put them in all caps, and we'll continue the conversation here on the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you to Satellite Phone Store, sat123.com/joy, sat123.com/joy. Without their amazing sponsorship, we couldn't bring the show to you every day. And it's always 10% off for every Joy viewer and listener with the promo code JOY. Why do we love them? Well, among other things, the satellite phones, the generators, the solar panels, everything you need for when the lights go out. They also have the most extensive line, one of the best quality lines of Faraday technology, beanies, bags, blankets, apparel. This is a way for you to reduce your body's exposure to EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. And as we know, talking to Dr. Williams, that exposure can impact your heart health. And so a regular usage of that type of technology, super helpful. Again, so thankful to the Satellite Phone Store, among our other sponsors. We love the folks over at Native Path. As you know, my morning routine is everything to me. Every morning I hydrate with Native Path Hydrate, and right after the hydration, the collagen goes in the coffee every single morning. Collagen is something that everyone over the age of 45 should start considering, because as we age, our bodies produce less collagen. That can impact our joint, our muscles, our hair, our nails, our skin. It is the reduction in the production of collagen that kind of makes it look old. So collagen is one of my beauty secrets. Devastatingly Handsome Dr. Joy, he uses it to tackle his joint pain, and it's the best on the market. Absolutely flavorless. It dissolves instantly, no clumps, no mess. It is 100% grass-fed beef beef collagen, and it is delicious. Native Path always has the best price point, and right now, 45% off for the Joy audience. Go to getnativepathcollagen.com. That is getnativepathcollagen.com for the exclusive 45% off stock up sale. I have not found a better product at a better price point than Native Path's collagen. It beats Walmart, it beats BJ's, anything you can get online. It just gets the job done, which is why I love it and why I use it every morning. Thank you to Native Path Collagen. Welcome back, everyone, to the final segment of the Shannon Joy Show. You can sponsor this show individually, independently. As you know, the Shannon Joy Show is completely independent, not left, not right. And we don't have billionaire backers. I don't have any super PACs or political organizations or political campaigns or organizations like MAGA behind this show. It is all our independent advertisers and all of you. For those of you who are angel investors of the Shannon Joy Show, whether it's $5 a month or $25 a month, I so appreciate you. You can go to theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com right now to set up a monthly contribution. It helps us keep the lights on here at the Shannon Joy Show and continue to serve you, the American citizen, the forgotten citizen, right? The left, the right, none of them have our interests at heart. They have all of their big agendas, all of their moneyed interests, all of the lobbyists, the corporatists, the technocrats, everyone converging in Washington, D.C. to plunder, to destroy our way of life, to confuse us, confound us, and essentially subjugate us. And so we need each other, and we need people looking out for we the people. And so I can do that more easily when I'm supported by the audience. So I appreciate all of you who have supported the show. Again, theshannonjoy.com. That's the Shannon Joy. It is my independent website. So let's look to, Nautical, I see you on the live chat. Trump's COVID operation Warp Speed, again, a military operation, was the first wave to get the low-hanging fruit. And now the next waves will be more intense. I have a feeling in the same way, I think what's coming, again, we're not privy to their plans. I think what's coming is now, just as we had the choice, we were offered a choice to take the COVID vaccine or to refuse the COVID vaccine under immense pressure, coercion, and propaganda. Tragically, it looks, Peter McCullough has a new report out, which is kind of a bummer. It looks like it's somewhere around 19% of Americans refused all COVID vaccines. 81% of Americans, it appears, according to a more recent analysis, 81% took the COVID vaccines at least one shot. And so some of the numbers are better for fully vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And there are many millions of Americans who took one and that they were done. This report also, and I'll feature this, I'll post this in the next few days, this report. But it also said that the occurrence of a serious adverse event and or death was directly related to the lot number. So what we were reporting from How Bad Is My Batch back in 2021, right? I mean, you guys knew about that very, very soon if you were viewers or listeners of the Shannon Joy Show. And they were spot on. There were hot lots, bad batches. And if you were one of the unlucky Americans to get a bad batch, there's a good chance you still have spike protein floating around in your system. The better news is that a large number of them appear to be placebos. I mean, completely benign, absolutely nothing. So unbelievable how much we were lied to in those times. But in the same way that there was a crisis, there was pressure, both political parties, an enormous amount of coercion, propaganda, and lies. I think as we move into this next phase, what they want us to take, all right, the thing that they're going to want us to do and to submit to, I think will be two things: a digital currency using a new stablecoin currency and also a digital ID, which will usher in the mass surveillance technology. If they get us on a digital ID and digital currency, they know everything. It's over. And if they can make that happen. So our play as we move forward, we don't know how they're going to roll this out or when they're going to roll this out or what the excuse will be, the crisis du jour, whatever they're going to try to do to frighten us. Maybe it's the aliens, maybe it's nuclear war, maybe it's the invasion at the border. I don't know, right? But whatever instability that they deploy against we the people, it's going to come with a solution, a false solution. And so we're going to have to figure out how, as best we can, to resist these things. And so that's going to be this is what we're going to be discussing. I mean, we want to live here. I have kids. I love them. I want them to be free. I want to live my life. I don't want to be surveilled. I don't want AI. I think most of you feel the same way. So, we have skin in this game, so to speak. And that's going to be, we're going to be looking for the best experts, the best organizations. These organizations popping up in localities across the country to pose the data centers. Love it. I love it. I love it. So we need more of that. Let's go to, before we get to this Epstein, technocracy, and transhumanism, let's go to that Catherine Austin Fitts bit that she recently did. I think it was in one of her shows where she lays out really the agenda of Trump the Trojan horse, which I think she absolutely nailed. Let's take a look at that. And then we're going to go back because, again, Epstein, let's not now look at him. Yeah, he was a pervert. He was horrible. He was a pedophile. He was a trafficker, all these horrible things. We're going to keep on that. But he was much more. He was much more than that. He was like an epicenter of the financial crimes that Catherine Austin Fitts talks about. Now, $30-some trillion in black budgets stolen from the American people. And also the beginning of this technocratic ideological movement that went through both the right-wing pipelines and left-wing pipelines starting 2 decades ago. Epstein's at the center of all of this, which is why we've got to understand what's going on. It's not just about the salacious aspects of the honeypot or the honey trap. So let's look at this clip from Catherine Austin Fitts, and then we'll get back to this piece by Courtney Turner, who, by the way, will be with us on Wednesday live to dive even deeper into this. Let's run it.
So I'm watching trillions of dollars disappear, and to me, it's a financial coup. We're talking about a coup d'etat. My guess is it's 36 trillion, if not more. We have a governance problem. We are being governed by people who are waging war on us, and we need to face that. Now, if they got 92 million Iranians targeted and tracked, how many people in the Netherlands and the United States, do you think they have targeted and tracked? We now are in a situation where AI has gone out of control. And as far as I know, there's no way to put it back in the box. If the people who run the system want Trump out, they can use Epstein to do it. It will work. And they can get him out by the end of the year if they want.
Do you ever fear for your own life then because of everything you do?
All right, Catherine Austin Fitts. That interview is linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. And again, the themes that we've talked about today, that the front-facing politicians aren't really in control. Trump is a Trojan horse for the technocracy, and there is a larger agenda behind him. I think that's becoming more and more obvious and relevant in political discussions today. So this is from Courtney Turner. And her piece here, also linked in the show notes today, exposed the Game B conspiracy. So Game B, it is a transhumanist conspiracy. Jeffrey Epstein right at the middle of it. She writes here, a Trojan horse for technocracy, transhumanism, and elite control. Funded by Epstein. Now, when she says funded by Epstein, remember, Epstein was also probably a front-facing character. So if there were billions behind Epstein, he wasn't really the guy. Those billions were provided to him, and then he became a vessel through which you could launder money, billions of dollars. And the money laundering operation is brilliantly laid out by Whitney Webb. She goes into that in a very detailed way. But this is rooted in eugenics and amplified by the intellectual dark web. So she starts here. It all starts, and this piece really explains everything. It's a long piece, so I suggest that you read it, understand it. But she looks back at the Weinstein brothers. Now, isn't it interesting? Brett and Eric Weinstein. Eric Weinstein is definitely a lefty. No relation, by the way, to Harvey Weinstein that I can find or that is acknowledged. But both high intellectuals. Eric, very left-leaning with some seriously kooky ideas about things in general. Brett is kind of the softer brother. He was the one that came out as like anti-COVID lockdown. He's kind of dominated, like I've seen him at Brownstone Institute things, like he's hovered all around the medical freedom community from right around 2021. Interestingly enough, I have no idea where these guys came from. When I read this, I started thinking, like, who are these Weinstein brothers? Where do they come from? Who are their parents? Where did they grow up? What did they do? And I can't really, their Wikipedia pages don't go very deep. It's very shallow bios for these guys. I really don't know where they came from, who their parents were. If you guys have any information on the Weinstein brothers, I just know that somehow they are just embedded in a lot. And you see them on a lot of the platformed media outlets that I think are a part of the, potentially part of this network. But she writes, it all starts with the Weinstein brothers' last questions in 2018 via the Edge Foundation. Brett, again, remember, Brett Weinstein is platformed in MAHA, in the medical freedom community, in a lot of the organizations that I have worked with over the past 5 years in battling the lockdowns and the lies and the pushing out of these, COVID shots. Brett has always been confusing to me. I'm just going to be honest. He's never been on my show. He's never had me on his show. And I've invited him on the show. In fact, I met him face to face at a Brownstone Institute gala and asked some questions. But I don't know what to make of Brett and Eric. But here, Brett asked the question at the Edge Foundation in 2018, and there's a quote, can humans set a non-evolutionary course that's game theoretically stable and escape the evolutionary traps? And Eric then responds, does something unprecedented happen when we finally learn our own source code? What if we could hack our own source code? Now, it sounds utopian, but it's a veil for conscious evolution, elite-driven redesign of society and biology. I don't love this idea that Brett is looking for a non-evolutionary course that's game theoretically stable. And so they asked this question in 2018. And then she said, this is when the Game Bee origins, start. And they trace to the Santa Fe Institute, SFI, where Epstein donated $275,000. Jim Root, the ex-chair, and Jordan Hall, our ex-trustee, birthed it post the 2008 crisis. Early talks with the Weinstein brothers on a economic Manhattan project, from think tanks to civilizational redesign, are, the topics that they have been addressing in these forums, seminars, think tanks. They sit up on the panels and they have conversations about, what's going to happen in the future. And so they called it an economic Manhattan project. And I'll tell you what, the transfer of all of our wealth to tokenization, Bitcoin, crypto feels like a Manhattan Project. Interesting that they really started pushing it 2018, right before COVID. 425, Epstein's nexus. So Epstein funded Harvard's Evolutionary Dynamics, $6.5 million, MIT Media Lab, $2.5 million, and transhumanist groups like Humanity Plus, 100,000 plus, ties to George Church. He's the guy who pushes the CRISPR technology. Ben Gortzel, AGI, via Singularity Net, and his baby ranch dream was seeding humanity with superior DNA. And I have seen commentary on Jeffrey Epstein and really his bizarre fascination and obsession with seeding humanity and also cloning, right? They're really into cloning. All these people are hanging out, and Epstein is at the epicenter of this. And Naomi Wolf, backs this up with her description of how Epstein and his billions were deployed to control the science, to control the direction of the accepted science, and to seed it into some of the most important academic institutions, and also corral some of the most brilliant and established academics and scientists and writers and thinkers and researchers. And she was part of that group. So this is very interesting to me because all of it is coming together. So she goes on, Epstein hosted a conference called Mind Shift on his island with blockchain pioneers like Brock Pierce. Post conviction, he still bankrolled AI, genetics, and cryonics. His estate, $40 million in Peter Thiel's Valor Ventures. Thiel also employed Eric Weinstein. Did you know this? Is it a coincidence? So Epstein funded Thiel's Valor Ventures. Epstein was also connected to Brock Pierce, who attended the Mind Shift conference, which she goes into on this in this piece, right? So his nexus was funding the future of human enhancement. She goes on with the timeline highlights. In 2003, Epstein funded Harvard PED. In 2009, Weinstein's Economic Manhattan Project was birthed. In 2013, Game Bee Genesis was discussed in Stoughton, Virginia. And then she goes into another couple, key moments. But then she says, in terms of the key figures, Jim Root, he's SFI chair, Game Bee founder, Jordan Hall, Civiums and Christianity Fusion, the Weinsteins, and Epstein. She says the Weinsteins were the source code hackers. I don't really get that. We'll ask her about that. So this is then when, it was Brock Pierce is the guy that is connected unbelievably to Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon was employed by Pierce at his company, Internet Gaming Entertainment, in the mid-2000s. And he later assisted Pierce's 2022 independent U.S. Senate bid and has been involved in crypto projects alongside him. Interesting, right? Like Bannon doesn't like Musk, apparently, right? But he is not necessarily against this type of technocratic expansion, including crypto projects. And there's more there as well. But Pierce is highly connected. Brock Pierce, who employed Bannon, was a cryptocurrency pioneer, the founder of Tether and Block.one, and he intersects with Jeffrey Epstein's network through his attendance at the 2011 Mind Shift Conference on Little St. James Island, where he spoke on the blockchain technology along scientists and Nobel laureates, despite Epstein's recent conviction for soliciting prostitution from a minor. So many of these people were hanging out with Epstein on his island, even after all of the rumors were out there about the fact that he liked little girls. In fact, Naomi Wolf spoke about that, about having conversations about that very issue. And this was when she made her break with the ties of people who were involved with Epstein. Really, really fascinating and pretty disturbing. Okay, so I would love to know more about the Weinsteins. I would love to see a Glenn Beck chalkboard on the Weinsteins because they came out of nowhere. I know Julia MR, Brett Weinstein somehow became a health freedom figure or fighter after pushing masks, wearing the masks and the vaccines. I know. I want to know where he came from. Right. So all of these people are kind of locked into this. This is why the understanding Epstein and his network, again, Whitney Webb's written volumes on this, but understanding that network and everyone around him and in his ecosystem is important because a lot of it has ties to everything that we're seeing today. And it also, it really explains the left hand, right hand technique. These are all things we're going to be exploring with Courtney Turner. She will be with us live here on the Shannon Joy Show on Wednesday. So make sure you tune in. We are out of time. Thank you guys so much for being with us today on the Shannon Joy Show. Oh, wow. M. Garth Hilton. Brett Weinstein was also defending himself on Dark Horse this week about him being an agent of control. Really, really interesting. We're going to continue on this theme. Thank you guys so much for being with us today on the SJ Show. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll do it all again.